And we are in. Welcome, kind listeners, to Under the Banyan Tree.
The live show where ancient epics meet modern minds.
Namaste, I'm Leo, a yogini from the West,
And I'm Mayank, a rationalist from the East.
and together we journey through the Mahabharata from the retelling of Ramesh Menon, epic of war, faith, and everything in between. And today we are reading the preface, the, the birth of a poet. And our sankalpa, our intention is to read it from the point of view of obsession. But before we do that, it's a small chapter but quite dense.
Mhm.
So, would you be as kind as to make a summary for our kind listeners, please?
Yeah, sure. And I'm going through my notes, and we want to do the summary so that you at least get to know what we are discussing about. So, in essence, this chapter starts with the mention of a king called Uparichara, who is a very powerful king. He has a wife, Girika. They have 5 sons together, but Girika wants one more. But Uparichara has to go for hunting, so he leaves his wife, goes for hunting, and there he realized how much she aroused him. So he masturbates into a banyan leaf and
Falcon, yeah.
sends his falcon to get that seed to her, to his wife. But that falcon was attacked by an eagle, and the banyan leaf drops into Yamuna. In Yamuna, there's a fish, but that fish has a history. She was earlier a nymph, an apsara. But because of a curse from a rishi, she turned into a fish. She swallows that semen and gets pregnant. 10 months later, she was picked by a fisherman. 10 months. And that fisherman cut her open, and the soul of the nymph gets freedom. And the fisherman finds two kids, twins, one boy and one girl. The fisherman takes the kids to the king Uparichara, and Uparichara accepts the boy, and fisherman wants to keep the girl. The boy is named Matsyaraj, who becomes an able king like Uparichara, while the girl is called Matsyagandhi, one who smells like a fish, and lives with her fisherman father. 16 years later, an immortal rishi, Rishi Parashar, comes and wants to cross the river, and Matsyagandhi, our one of our twins, she helps him cross the river through her boat. And Parashar gets what
Enticed.
enticed,
He
yeah.
falls in
Yeah, I didn't want to use the word aroused. He falls for her and tells her that you are meant to bring a great history for India, and therefore you should be blessed with a boy, a magical boy like Parashar. And after a lot of back and forth negotiations with Matsagandhi, they finally agreed to have sex and have a magical boy who when he's born as a full grown up man. And that boy, because he was born on an island on a dweep, he was called Dwapayan, and later he was known as Vyas or Ved Vyas as we know him, and he became the greatest poet the world has ever known, and therefore the name of the chapter is The Birth of a Poet. Did I miss anything?
No, you were fantastic. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. I found this chapter a mixture of prophecy, magic, and insight.
Mhm.
And in it, where did you find obsession? Before we go that, what's your definition of obsession? How do you see it?
Okay, I wrote obsession. I actually I also translated it, like I thought of a positive and a negative meaning for the word,
Mm-hmm.
because there are some things which I am obsessed about, and I don't want to feel that I'm a bad guy or something when I am obsessed about something. So I wrote that there can be a positive meaning where it is a passion which drives you,
Mm-hmm.
but more or less I think we use obsession as a negative word, where I personally feel it's an unwanted greed which drowns you.
Interesting. Greedy.
Yeah.
Um, so my perception of obsession, I you mentioned that obsession can have a positive and a negative side.
Mm-hmm.
I I can't see it that way. So when when something is positive and it has a positive impact to you, to your inner being, it's determination. When it pays a toll on you and it has it takes you off of balance, um, it's a obsession. When
Mm-hmm.
you are so fixated in something that you start getting anxious, you start getting um, not sleep, so that becomes an obsession. And maybe this is a way for me again to um, cover my own obsessions. Yoga for me can be considered an obsession, but it always brings me something positive and something positive to the ones around me. Therefore, it's I'm determined.
Yeah, I think, yeah, like if we can use the synonym determined, um, yeah, like then probably it simply leaves obsession with a negative connotation to it. So,
But if I read it, sorry, if I read it as determination,
mm-hmm.
I find very a good amount of places of determination or a certain level of determination in the text.
Mm-hmm.
But if I read it as something that has to be negative to your inner state,
Mm-hmm.
I only find it in one place.
And what was that one place?
You are driving me mad. So when Parashar was negotiating, it's not the fantastic word.
Yeah.
Anyway, when they were talking and trying to find the best way of having that moment of love, um, she stated her conditions, and at some stage, Parashar says, um, "You are driving me mad." So he's beyond his normal state of consciousness. He's getting mad
Yeah.
because he's infatuated, so infatuated for by her.
Yeah. And I will just take a moment here to, if in case our kind listeners are not aware where exactly we are in the story, so it's so Matsyagandhi has turned 16 and the immortal Rishi Parashar has visited her place and wants to cross the river. And while crossing the river, he gets enticed with this smell of
Fish.
Matsyagandhi. Yeah, she smells like a fish. And Rishi, like who is supposed to have control over all his um, like
Senses.
senses and everything, he loses all the senses and just wants to have a physical encounter with her. I would not say from his side it was love, but he.
But I think and the text tells us that his heart fell
Mm-hmm,
for her.
mm-hmm.
The text says the son of our love. And okay, I know that this is stated by Mahatma Gandhi, but I, I I I feel that it's that idea of falling in love completely by someone, even if you are only um, seducted by your
Mm-hmm.
senses. But his heart, he poured his heart to her, even if it was God's will.
Hmm.
Uh, but I don't feel that he was simply aroused and wanted to have sex and that's it.
Okay. Yeah, that can be, that can surely be an explanation. I felt that probably he was not in the state of love. I don't know how to define that state, but I also don't feel that that was a transactional state. I
Yeah.
felt he felt that this is something, as a rishi, he has this awareness that this is something which should happen, which is supposed to happen, and he's the medium through
Yeah.
which destiny is playing this role. And as you said, he was completely going mad. He wanted to do this, and
He was obsessed.
yeah, he was obsessed at least for that moment, for
Yeah.
sure. And that's where Satyavati puts many conditions, and ultimately they end up making love.
And you say conditions,
Mm-hmm.
and I think she just defined her boundaries.
Hmm.
It's- She was attracted. She knew the social context
Hmm.
that they lived, and she draw her boundaries.
Okay. I think this will be a good time to tell the boundaries or the conditions to our kind listeners. And
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, so Matsya Gandhi was 16 at that age. So she puts four condition in front of Rishi Parashar, because after a because she knew who Parashar is, what he can accomplish, and he already showed her some of
His powers.
his powers, his occult powers
And
in.
she was afraid of being cursed too.
Yeah, yeah. And so therefore she put these four conditions. One was, neither my father nor anyone should know that we are going to have a physical encounter. My virginity should not be broken. The son born out of our love should be a magician like you, and I should always smell
As
as
sweetly.
sweetly as I do now. So Matsya Gandhi had a smell of a fish, and Parashar transformed it into a smell which had an underlying tone of the smell of a fish, but also had
But
some
it was erotic.
erotic and other earthly smells. And this is a very important point. Like, her smell was very important, which we will get to know later in the story. So these were the four conditions or boundaries uh, she set, and they were fulfilled by Parashar.
And more than that,
More than that,
yeah,
in
he said she would be recognized
yeah,
in all worlds by as Satyavati, and and the son would be the greatest poet the world ever known.
yep. Also, and he gave her some touches in her body.
N-
No,
he made her radiant.
okay, yeah.
He made her body lambent. That
Mm-hmm.
it's like an underlying radiance,
Yeah.
like a divine aura. Let's
Yeah.
call it that way. Um, do you think her conditions were? What do you think about her conditions?
So that's the thing. Like, we read this chapter many times, and initially when I read it, I felt it's a lot of persuasion from um, not even persuasion. Like, I felt it is manipulation going on in the beginning, but when I reread the chapters, you see those sprinkles of lines where it also mentions that Matsugandhi was also attracted to Rishi Parashar, and she just wanted to get her bases covered. So when I reread it again, I actually found her to be a much more empowered character
Mm-hmm.
than what I was thinking initially.
Yeah.
She had her agency. She negotiated well, or whatever we should say in this situation. She was very precise with her terms and conditions, that this is what all I want. And her age from the text is 16, which for those times can be,
It's a full-fledged woman.
yeah, but I would be more comfortable.
Don't
Sorry,
kill the micro.
you may had a little
Earthquake.
earthquake there. So the thing is, I feel if the age, which was the way it was shown in the episodes from B.R. Chopra, I found that to be much more comfortable because it's again our modern sensibilities talking.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I personally believe that if I think of her as a 16-year-old girl,
Mm-hmm.
she was very mature for her age. She was very confident,
Mm-hmm.
talking to a great rishi, and still coming from all the. Once she realized that, oh, I have some power in this dynamics, she went all out.
And so I had the same sensation as you while reading the text. And for a good amount of time, I was thinking, oh, she didn't ask for any possessions. She didn't ask for a castle or, to have slaves at that time
Yeah,
that
yeah.
existed. But after I thought that that possibility didn't existed in her mind.
Hmm.
So she asked for whatever at that time was important for a woman. A woman would never be a queen without a king. A woman would never have a business without the man. So she asked for the things that she thought as possible.
So my question would be then, how would you, uh, how would you justify her ask where she says that the son should be a magician like you?
She saw the possibility,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it they were having a son together. So obviously,
But what great or good that son may bring in her life.
I don't think it's about bringing good
Hmm.
for her.
Hmm.
I think it's about feeling that she brings something positive into the world.
Okay. Then that again, I feel for a 16-year-old to think all this, it's not a small thing. Like I personally feel if we take that interpretation that she wanted to bring something great or something good in this world, I think it's a for a 16-year-old it's commendable. But I will let our kind listeners decide on this. But
Going back, did
yeah,
you see Obsession anywhere else?
I felt here and there that they were hints of obsession, but I end up deciding that no, they were not obsession. For example, if we go in the beginning of the story, when we talk about Uparichara and Girika wants sixth son, I just felt it's a natural movement like of a wife. And yeah, probably her maternal instincts were kicking in, probably she wants to have quality time with her husband. I don't see it as obsession. It
Mm.
was just what was your opinion and how you saw that thing.
No, I agree with you. And we know that 10 or 11 months passed
Mm-hmm.
and she wasn't pregnant. She was still wanting another son. So um, I don't think she was obsessed
Yeah,
with it.
yeah,
Nor Adrika was obsessed with the Rishi. She
yeah.
was simply, it's her nature. She was a nymph.
Hmm.
She was an apsara, and they are seductive. And she was being playful. That's it.
Yeah,
And it, for me, the beacon of obsession is the way Parashar was focused on having sex with Matsya Gandhi.
hmm.
There was other parts.
So if I use the same word which you used in the beginning. Was he obsessed or was he determined?
I think he was surrendered
Mm-hmm.
to a task that he had to do. He was, when there's something that you must do,
Mm-hmm.
you do it. And his senses were engaged in it. But ultimately, he says, this is God's will.
Mm-hmm.
So, and, you know, beliefs apart, all of that, within the text, for me, it was like he was inspired and he knew whatever would come from that, it was his and her duty, and it had to be accomplished. In a way, the dharma and the svadharma had to align.
Yeah. Yeah. And if I can uh, build an argument over what you said, I also felt, and that line which made me think a lot was when he says, "This is God's will, Satyavati, and your son shall be the greatest poet the world has ever seen." And I kept on thinking about the word your, and I came up with this explanation that he didn't want to take kind of any, he didn't want to mention that he has the right over the child which is coming now. So he kind of relinquished all his rights over that child and let it be the child of Satyavati or Matsyagandhi. So I felt that it was a very rishi like behavior there, where you relinquish all your rights in this physical world or something. Uh, and I also felt, I think he established that you, Satyavati, you are a very central character of this whole plot. You are very important. So that's what I felt when I read that line. What was your interpretation?
Um, yes, I share the same interpretation as you, and I forgive me for this, but I always have the perception that the connection of offspring
Mm,
initially it's always bigger with the mother than the father.
yeah.
I know that over here it didn't happen, but normally the baby it's 9 months within the body of the mother. So, and the mother after will feed the baby. So I think naturally there's a higher, bigger initially, in the moment of birth with the baby. And he's a rishi.
Mm,
He's a immortal rishi. So he's living in between um, Lucas,
mm,
and he will not be attached to anything.
yeah.
And I find now that you are mentioning this, I by the end of the chapter, I was kind of troubled because so a normal 16-year-old girl or woman, she's taking someone across the river, and all of this happened. That it's out of the world,
Mm,
and she meets Parash, and Parash walks away over the water.
Parashar.
Parashar,
Yeah.
thank you. And she delivers a full grown
Man.
man, and he walks away. And he is the one saying, we need to go our separate lives here. And she's there alone, and
Mm,
she will go back home and back to her normal life. And this can be a good amount of information. I think nowadays we can always can even look at it as traumatic, and she can't say anything to anyone. She can't talk with anyone about it. And life goes on.
Okay, I'm being a devil's advocate here.
Okay. I'm used to it.
I am just so yes, this can be one way the story can have gone. Then other thing, the way story can we can retell the story is that probably she relived this moment in her head many times because she liked it, and she probably also likes the fact that she has a very kind of a mystic, powerful son, greatest poet of all time, one of the great rishis of all time, which she can summon whenever she needs him. And she may also be thinking, or maybe like a good level of anxiety for the future, thinking because Parashar made great predictions for her. She may be thinking, oh, what lies in my future? Who is the king who will come to me? What is going to happen? Like, that's what that can be another
but
tangent of the story.
absolutely, and I love that interpretation.
Hmm.
But again, she there everything is change, okay?
Yeah.
But that was a moment of very quick and fast changes, and suddenly there's many other possibilities, and she's anxious
Hmm.
about it. So she doesn't come back the same way she was,
Hmm.
in such a difference that she can recognize that difference, and she is anxious. And at least the father and people around her have noticed that
Hmm.
her smell changed,
Oh yeah.
that she's radiant, that there's something different about her.
Hmm.
And they might ask questions.
Hmm.
What happened? Oh, I
Parashar
went to
just
sleep like this.
Parashar just blessed me for what? For helping him cross the river.
Oh, yeah, it can be. Why not? He was in hurry.
Yeah. And do I think we should also talk little bit the about our character Vyas here, on which this chapter is based on his
Mhm.
appearance. I because I wrote some points down.
Go ahead.
Like he was as handsome as Kamdev.
Mm-hmm.
Kamdev is probably like, I don't know.
It's Cupido.
Yeah, Cupid.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's Eros
Yeah,
in,
in Greek history,
yeah.
Greek mythology.
Oops.
You decide if it's history or mythology. And he was a full,
For sure, it's story.
yeah, and he was a full grown rishi, and he had a kamandal in his one hand and a smooth staff. So kamandal is just a pot which rishi may use to drink water or to do purification rituals. And I read something interesting about kamandals, that they are either made of clay or coconut shell or a gourd shell, like say from a pumpkin. You bring out everything out of the pumpkin and the shell is left, and they use that as kamandal. And for that they said that it also kind of represents ego dissolution,
Mm-hmm.
where you bring out everything negative out of you, ego out of you, arrogance out of you, and whatever is left is a rishi. So it's a symbolic ritual as well, I feel, which I found very interesting when I read about Kamandal. And that is the description of Vyasa, our hero, kind of a hero in this chapter, who comes in the very end and just comes and leaves.
Next time I will ask you, how's your pumpkin?
Yeah, my pumpkin is full of goo. I am not a rishi. I have a lot of ego and arrogance with me. Do you think there is anything else which you would like?
No, I'm good. I'm okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like,
I think it's time for us to move on to Naman.
yeah, but before that,
Mm-hmm.
would you like to discuss one line which you found profound in the text?
Oh, well, it's directly related with my Naman,
Mm-hmm.
so why not? Um, so it's at more or less at the middle of the text in the story of Adrika. So when Adrika was transformed into a fish, it says, the text says, Adrika stayed in the river devouring smaller fish. When she felt hungry, she grew bigger and bigger. Soon she forgot she was an apsara and thought of herself as just a fish. And I thought, I look at myself and I felt a fish that started being a slave of the impulses of my body, being a slave of the culture where I was
Hmm.
brought up. And the way we so many times forget who's the witness, who is witnessing everything that is happening. And I felt a fish. Yeah.
I think we all are a fish. Some saltwater fish, some sweetwater fish, but we are fishes. But yeah, I think that's a very good philosophical interpretation of that line. I somehow just read it and skimmed over it and didn't think a lot about it. But thank you for going deeper into that line. And on that note, would like to know, who are you, like who is the character which is getting a naman from you? Your So naman is simply a reverential bow, or sometimes it can be an acknowledgement bow. So that's how we are treating this naman in our um, podcasts. So who are you namaning to?
Namaning, you
Yeah,
created a new world.
yes, add it to the dictionary Oxford.
So it's Cedrica, uh, because her character was a teacher for
Mm-hmm.
me, and it was the one that suffered more transformations and had to die in a way, and it's that metaphor of liberation. They, the fisherman saw the nymph going up, but it was the one that had to be cursed in order for destiny or for the story to move forward. That there's a rishi that was born from a rishi and a half apsara
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
king.
Yeah. And I think in that way, Satyavati also has a very magical birth. She's no ordinary girl.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
wonder
She
if they know at some stage how
uh,
they were born.
only if Vyas can tell them, or probably her father may have told
Yeah,
her. Maybe somewhere, we don't know
yeah.
that. Uh, but yeah, I think she had a very small role, but a pivotal role,
Yeah.
and uh, yeah, and I liked how you looked so much depth in her character this way.
So, who do you want to Naman?
So I am going to Naman the obvious one, Rishi Parashar here.
Why obvious?
I just interpret it. I just interpreted it this way, and this can sound very apologist, but I think this is a perspective through which you can visualize the story. One visualization can be that he was manipulating Satyavati and everything, but one visualization can be that he was assigned a task. He is a great rishi who comes from the lineage of Brahma, the Holy Trinity, and he has been assigned a task. And we can, like, think of this, if we are in his situation, we can say that, oh, I don't want this kind of task because it will blemish my reputation and everything, and history will judge me. But somehow he takes it as a task, and
He's a she.
yeah, and
There's
he
no attachment.
yeah, and he completes it, and he doesn't think that how history is going to treat him, will it be kind, unkind, or whatever. He accomplishes whatever was assigned to him, brings us the narrator of the story, uh, and uh, and doesn't even want to take a credit about it. I don't know if people may even remember that Vyas is son of Parashar, but more or less people may remember that Vyas is son of Satyavati. So that's why, like, that's one angle which I saw in his character. It can be open to interpretations to our kind listeners, whatever.
Please share your opinion on this.
Yeah, whatever way
Do
you.
you agree with his naman or not?
Yeah. So, and that's it. That's the naman from my side.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And thank you, kind listeners, for being with us. We'll be here next week to read and go over and share our insights in the next chapter. Thank you.
Thank you so
Namaste.
much. Namaste. Like, share, and subscribe. Forgot about that important aspect.
Attachments.
Yeah. Please stay connected with us so that you know how sort of we are dissecting these stories. So please stay connected